And the Houston Rockets get the win with Paul back on the floor, 103-98. Harden extends his 30-point streak to 23 straight games as they record their third straight win. Afterward, Mike D'Antoni talked about a little bit of a natural let-up because Paul was on the floor again.
You know, with Chris back, sometimes you have a tendency, you look, Chris is back, and you let down a little bit. And it's nothing against Orlando, but it's still not a national TV game, and it's a game you got to grind out. And they have some very good offensive players, and we let them go. And we didn't have the necessary energy to start the game. But because of their spirit and where we want to be and who they are, they kept digging it, and finally we held them to 37 in the second half, and that was awesome. That was really good defense, and it was, I just told James they voted him in the wrong place. They got him at a guard in the All-Star game. He should be at center, and that's what he is. He's a point center.
I don't know about that. I'm not exactly sure what Coach D'Antoni's talking about there. Point center, but Harden goes for 40, which means his January average is coming down.
Just a little.
Which is crazy, right?
Which is crazy.
It is crazy. What's it going to mean to have Chris Paul out there with him now? Everyone talked about the usage rate, which we showed you guys. Now that number is just absurd, and you would think unsustainable for an entire season. Now he gets some possessions off, but even at the end of the game, there was a possession where Paul had it for a little while and then gave it over to James Harden so he could knock down a late bucket.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, I think it allows the Rockets to start to settle into the style of play that they're going to need to in order to win in the postseason. That balance between how much the ball is in Harden's hands, playing minutes with Chris Paul. Harden's on the bench. Now Chris Paul is running the show, leading the offense, etc. That's where the Rockets are right now. I think they are positioned perfectly, actually, to start playing some of their best basketball as a group while Clint Capella is still out. I think we have to give some props to Kenneth Faried.
Yeah.
He's come in, I think, to Houston. He's been active. He's done all the things that he has done in his NBA career, rebounding, energy, activity, and I think that's helped the Rockets be sound on the defensive end, even while Harden has been explosive offensively.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think CP coming back is going to give James Harden a little bit of rest. He can still get his 40 points or 35 points and be effective, but you see more guys getting touches, different ways, more pick and rolls, more assists, 4 guys in double figures, good numbers. It gives James Harden a chance to rest a little bit more as well, not so much pressure on him. And like Fish said, it gets them ready for postseason basketball. It's tough to win a championship or go for a championship when you got one guy with that kind of usage percentage, which is unheard of. Yeah, tough to win that way.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot easier to game plan for. Whether or not you can stop him, it's a whole lot easier to game plan if you know the same guy is going to have the ball on every possession, not just at the end of the game, but the entire game.
Right? Yeah, and you've seen some of the Rockets' opponents in the last week or so, I think starting with the Lakers, really being aggressive defensively to get the ball out of his hands at times, to get all the way into his space, force him to go right and live inside the three-point line. Those are things that teams started to adjust to. To Harden's credit, he adjusted and was still able to figure out how to get points as well as get wins. But tough to do when you're trying to advance from round 1, 2 into the conference finals and then NBA finals.
You heard Mike D'Antoni praise his team's defense in the second half. They only allowed 16 points in that fourth quarter. Remember, Jeff Buzdelik, who was their defensive coordinator, left the team over the offseason, then returned a little after Thanksgiving. Maybe we're starting to see the fruits of his return there, even without a couple of their elite defenders from last year's team.
Yeah, Jeff is a good defensive mind, and obviously D'Antoni is a master at offense, as we've seen his whole coaching career. You got to have a guy like that on your staff, talking about Jeff, to be able to give some good points of shrinking the floor, contested shots, go for the rebound, gang rebound, things like that good defensive coaches, good defensive teams, as Fish knows, championship teams win on defense, even though they have good offensive players.
Yes, for sure, and that's what we've seen from the Warriors, who have they're the standard bearer.
Right.
Defensively, they've been at the top of the league. The Spurs, great defensive teams over the years. To Booz's point, though, about Jeff Buzdelik, great defensive mind. He holds the line in terms of that end of the floor, which allows Mike D'Antoni to really focus on where his strengths are. And then also, I think the Carmelo Anthony not impact, but the energy, trying to figure out, is Melo here? Is he not here?
Right.
Now being able to move past that. I think all of these things are kind of combining itself, and the Rockets are starting to round into the team that we thought they were going to be when the season started.
He's not only not there anymore, tonight he was in New York to watch the Heat and the Knicks, which you'll see a little later on. So still no Clint Capella, and he's weeks away from returning, but with Paul back in the lineup, Kenneth Faried's played good minutes, as you mentioned a few moments ago. How close are the Rockets right now, with 30-ish games to go, to where they were at the end of last season?
That's a tough question. I think, they still will feel the impact of Noah Ariza, Noah Mbamute in terms of that length and versatility on the defensive end, in particular when they face the more explosive offensive teams. If the Lakers get into the postseason, there's less guys that you can throw at LeBron James if you see the Warriors at any point. But I do think guys like Austin Rivers, he competes with an edge when he's on the floor. I think he's been good for them since he's been in Houston. Eric Gordon, who's had some injuries, he still had some great moments. I don't think they're as good as they were when the season ended last year in the way that it did for them. But I think they're starting to scare people again in terms of at least being a team that should be in the conversation to try and contend with the Warriors when they're at full strength. Capella's back, Chris Paul is back, everyone is there. I think we see the Rockets being able to have a chance to win.
But you have to judge them the same way because they very seldom have had all their parts so far this season.
That's very true. But speaking of Houston, though, with Capella coming back, and now you got Faried, there's no letdown, really. I mean, obviously, Capella might be a better shot blocker at times, but Faried can block shots as well. As Fish said earlier, his rebounding, his athleticism, his energy, his force. He goes to the hoop with abandon, trying to dunk everything, plays above the rim. He's not going to do nothing crazy out there that you're not going to see anybody else do, but he can go to the basket, go for dunks, go for rebounds, bring energy, play good defense, and then you put Capella back in there. So the minutes that he's out there, he's not going to hurt you.
And one of the key things you need, too, real quick, is you need a guy that is truly appreciative of the opportunity to be where he is.
Great point.
On a team that has a chance to win.
Right.
And Faried, that new energy and new blood and desire, happy to be back on the court in the league, playing for a good team, that also gives you that daily boost in those 10:30, 11 o'clock practices.
Sure.
You need a guy that's kind of pushing everybody to get better and work hard.
He was kind of sitting and rotting in Brooklyn as they went with youth, obviously, for good reason with the Brooklyn Nets.